everybody. Since time is scarce at the Web Summit, I try to get right to the point. We're talking about tech, we're talking about Serbia. Let's assume I'm an investor. I want to spend some money. My employees begging for Barcelona or Paris. Why would I go to Serbia?
Well, it's easy for me to respond. I think Serbia by far is a much more fun place. I think Serbia has a huge talent pool, great potentials, very good universities, very strong education system, and we are also now reforming it to even make it stronger. It's up and coming destination. I think really is, you know, we have a track record of very successful startup companies. We have a track record of very good research institutes. And, you know, it seems that the investors who are currently in Serbia are very happy for being in Serbia, and they're also planning to stay and expand.
In which way can you encourage companies to come? So what is your task today here at the Web Summit? What are you doing?
So this is how I look at it. Serbia, right, until some 5 years ago, was in a very difficult economic situation. We had a huge budget deficit, increasing public debt, unemployment of above 24%. And then in 2014, we have started reforms with support from the International Monetary Fund. And we've really successfully implemented these very difficult and unpopular reforms. So today we are in a very different situation. We have unemployment which is below 12%. You know, this is going to be the third consecutive year with the budget surplus. Our public debt is decreasing and currently stands at about 56% of GDP, which is even below Maastricht criteria, so better than most even EU member countries. But where we are today is the economy which is driven, which is investment driven, which is what we needed to do because the unemployment was so high. So you really needed the investors who are kind of labor intensive investments. What we need to do now, and what really is down to my government and my own personal responsibility as the Prime Minister, to change the economy, to make this shift from investment-driven, mostly driven by foreign direct investments, to innovation-driven, the economy based on knowledge, innovation, startups, small and medium-sized enterprises. And, you know, we've done a lot. I've been Prime Minister for about 15 months, and we've done a lot in these past 15 months. We have initiated a comprehensive reform of education. We have kids now in schools in Serbia, in primary schools when they're 10, 11 years old, learning Scratch and Python. We have increased number of specialized IT departments by 5 times, and we are continuing to do that in 2019. We have started introducing digital textbooks, so kids have more fun in learning, and they also learn these analytical skills and problem solving, you know, so I'm here to actually promote all of the fantastic stuff that Serbia has done. But regardless of the government, I mean, we have really talented young people who have done enormously well without the government support. So, you know, we have one of the 50 smartest companies in the world is Serbian. It's called Seven Bridges Genomics. We have one of the most well-known, the best video gaming companies called Nordeus. Serbia is amazingly, I bet no one actually knew that, is actually, we're now building the European Center of Excellence in Digital Agriculture. So, you know, and these are all the things that are not down to the government, but really down to smart, educated, innovative, creative people.
But on the other hand, many of those small, young and talented people leave by the tens of thousands every year. Why do young people leave Serbia?
We do have a brain drain issue, but the brain drain issue is much smaller than in other countries in the region, which is one of the reasons why I think that EU integration and our strategic focus is on the EU integration is important, but the actual reforms on that European path are much, much more important, and the quality and honesty of the reforms implemented. And I'm not worried about the dates. I'm more worried that we actually take things seriously and implement everything that we need to, so that when the time comes and we are ready to join the EU, people actually want to stay in Serbia. We also invest a whole lot into education and simple infrastructure for startups and innovation. Our current plan is to set aside 100 million euros just for infrastructure for startup and innovation companies in science and tech parks, labs, institutes, and so on and so forth. I think that by the end of the year, we will also become a full-fledged member of CERN in Geneva, meaning that people will want to stay in Serbia and in our universities because they will be able to participate in cutting-edge research and development and technology. So all of these is changing the perspective, and I think we will see that the brain drain turns into the brain circulation, which is, I think, where you want to be. Brain circulation is the best thing for the country because people are going out, they're seeing new things, they want to come back home. And I think we're going to see in the future more and more people coming back.
How much problems are created by the fact that Serbia, nevertheless, the war was already mentioned, is considered still, rightly or not, as a not so safe place. So let's say in terms of rule of law, in terms of maybe even violence, in terms of the question where Serbia might end up in the future. You mentioned EU enlargement, but also Russia plays a big role in Serbia. How much a problem is that for you to promote tech industry in Serbia?
But I also think that, there is certainly this perception of Serbia. I think that, we fight perceptions with things like, Exit Festival, which is voted the best festival in the world, and this is for the second time. People coming in to Serbia, be it Belgrade or Novi Sad or Niš or Subotica, anywhere in Serbia, really see a very, very different image of the country. It's a very safe place. There's not a lot of crime. It's also a very, I would say, kind of relaxing place. It's the quality of life is good. But we are trying to promote that. And, my view is that, when I became the Prime Minister, I said, I have two key priorities. One is digitalization. The other one is education. And I think that what we have, and also because of, the very difficult couple of decades that we went through, we have really, we have innovative, resourceful people. And we also have people who are not very used to actually respecting the institutions. They're more used to disruption. And all of these things actually can be used to our own advantage in the fourth industrial revolution. Creativity, innovation, resourcefulness, disruption, So I think that we have a huge chance to really change Serbia in the next couple of years.
Can you explain a bit? So the Silicon Valley was not planned from the US government, it just developed. What kind of role must governments play these days to attract business?
I think, in Serbia, the creative industries, the IT industries actually developed without much of the government support. When I took over the government and looked at the numbers, I thought to myself, this really is a new face of Serbia. And if they've done this much, and the IT sector in Serbia is growing at the percentage of above 20% annually, this year it's, I think, about 30% annually, which is huge, really. The creative industries employ more than 100,000 people in Serbia. It's a 7 million country. This all was done without really government paying attention or providing any kind of legal framework so they can work better. And so my thought was, listen, if we just support them, not interfere, because we don't really want to interfere, we want to ask these people what they need from us to grow even more, to be even faster, more efficient, to be more competitive also globally, then I thought, together we would do wonders. And this is exactly, in my view, what's happening in the past 15 months. The second thing that we're doing now is that as of the 1st of January, we're going to introduce a set of tax incentives, stimulation measures for people and companies who are investing in innovation and research and development in Serbia. So I'm hoping that that will, again, additionally boost Serbia.
So is it most about subsidies, low wages, that, if I come back to my first question, is the main selling point for Serbia compared to Paris, Amsterdam, Berlin? I don't know.
Actually, no. I think, especially for the innovation-driven industries, the wages are comparable to many other countries. I think you get much more value for your money because education is good. And as I said, people really are creative and innovative. So I think, and also that the life cost, the cost of life in Serbia is much lower. So in terms of purchasing power, we are very, very competitive. But I think people really, investors coming into Serbia really fall in love with the people and the experience of Serbia, and we just need to promote that further beyond.
If you're looking from a government perspective now to other European countries at least, who are your competitors and whom are you admiring for their strategy? Who is doing really well in doing what you want to do?
I think we look at different countries for different things. Digitalization in government is also extremely important to me, e-government. So we need to really, we're making this whole push from taking the government from analog government to e-government, which I think is really the best answer for more efficient, more transparent government, for more predictable government. The best way to fight corruption is providing just simply more electronic services to citizens and businesses. So, for example, in the e-government, we look a lot towards Austria, which I think is a similar institutionally set up country like Serbia, which is, again, different than Estonia. So we are looking, I've been several times in Vienna when I was still the Minister of Public Administration to look at how they do it, and then we do it with Serbian flavor. For IT sector, we are not, again, I rely as the Prime Minister a lot on just the basic resourcefulness and knowledge of our own people who tell me what needs to be done. So, and I'll tell you an anecdote when, as the government and even the previous government under my predecessor, who's current president of the country, actually, the previous government established this council for IT, and when we've done that, and I was appointed the president of the council for IT, because there is such a huge growth in the IT community. Everyone said, I had my Twitter box full saying, please don't, we are successful because the government had nothing to do with us, so do not interfere. We really needed to work through this, we needed to build trust, so we're not interfering. We're actually out there asking people who know better than we do as the government what needs to be done. We have this fantastic organization, and they're somewhere here, called Digital Serbia. Digital Serbia, we've based on the Digital Switzerland. So we learn from other places, and this is a very competitive world, and we really need to do our best every single day, run as fast as we can to catch up, and then also become and stay what I believe is one of the leaders in the fourth industrial revolution.
But apart from e-governance, in terms of creating an attractive business environment, who is good in Europe from your perspective? Which country?
I think in general, Europe is perhaps a little bit too conservative. We are trying very hard not to over-regulate. I still believe in deregulation and really leaving it to the people themselves to do whatever they do best to do best. But again, I think Europe has, Europe has a fantastic tool such as Horizon 2020 for research and development and all of these things. But it needs to be much more visible. So I think that, we should work together as Europe to promote European excellence much further, because you kind of have China and you have US, but you don't have Europe. You have different countries which are members of the EU, but it's never, even if it's funded by the EU Research and Development Fund, it's always Belgium or or Germany or Austria. It's never Europe. So I think we should have a little bit of more of that common European spirit in innovation.
You mentioned already EU enlargement, and the Commission just set out the date of 2025, perhaps as a date for accession. In a way, this helps you to promote what is your agenda within Serbia. But if you would become a member of the EU, that could also be a big problem in terms of brain drain. Everything is much more open. Are you really prepared for that?
Yes, I think that's where, my view is that what's the most important is that, obviously EU is ready for enlargement, but on the other hand, that the countries are also ready themselves to join the EU. I think if the countries are not ready to join the EU, if they did not really implement reforms, just basically went through this ticking the box exercise of opening and closing chapters, so they say, okay, we've done whatever we needed to do, now we're ready to join the EU, then you have actually a lose-lose situation rather than win-win. And then your economy is not competitive enough, your agriculture is not competitive enough, so you basically destroy your agriculture producers. You have huge problem with the brain drain. So my job is really to make sure that we are indeed ready to join the EU, so that when we join the EU, it's just another additional advantage to what we've already done in terms of strengthening Serbia. So it's win-win, win for the EU and win for Serbia. It's a very difficult job, and 2025 is a very ambitious deadline. We are running very fast and we are trying to do it, but I'm not worried about 2025. I'm more worried that we actually, as a result, we have this strong economy, macroeconomic stability, that we have transparent, efficient public administration, that we have rule of law, all of these things actually make up the country which is then ready to join the EU.
One final question on that, apart from tech, how are you going to resolve Kosovo?
It's obviously one of the, it's the most complex, politically speaking, the most complex, the most emotionally difficult issue that we have at hand. And up until a couple of years ago, and there I have to really just give the credit to the president of the country, it was under his leadership that we actually started thinking about how can we leave this behind, how can we fully turn towards the future. We have started the dialogue with Pristina, which hopefully at some point in time will result in a normalization agreement for the long-term peace and stability, which is the precondition for prosperity. I often say, as the Prime Minister, I'm often stuck between this 21st century politics and economy, something that we are doing today and what we are doing every day, and the 19th century politics of what's going on in terms of incidents. And, this is not the best way to move forward at the pace that our citizens need. So I'm hoping that we're gonna, we'll be able to resolve this.
time is up already. I'm sorry. Thank you very much. And if you ever hear someone talking in California about Silicon Serbia, remember that conversation and remember the Prime Minister of Serbia, Brnabic. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.